Continue with more on your program, Both Sides of the Story, here on Power 106 FM. Smart devices all over the world. Taking your calls on 87922 876-2411 Solutions Land. Peter Rose stated there is once a farthing on the best estate in Jamaica is a bog estate which has been probably during a period of slavery and has now sold for £500. Well, property values are going through the roof with all the developments that have been happening. But in 1849, property values in Jamaica had dropped precipitously, whereas the Bog Estate was valued at approximately £80,000 during slavery. On this day in 1849, that dropped to £500. The inventor of the clothes dryer, G.T. Sampson, was born on this day. In fact, hold on. G.T. Sampson invented the clothes dryer on this day in 1862. I beg your pardon. And let's go to 1890. Claude Bell was born at Retreat in St. Anne in 1890. Claude Bell Avenue in West Kingston bears the name of Claude Bell, who won public recognition for his task as supervisor of relief works in that area from 1940 to 1950. It's not what it used to be. That used to really and truly be an industrial estate. Both my parents worked in Bell Road Industrial Estate. Glass factory, Dervan Corporation, he was around that side as well, to the base. All area, nothing but industries. And I can't even died on this day in 1891. Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John Macdonald, died. Why am I telling you this? Because he was married to a Jamaican woman. Agnes MacDonald, or Baroness MacDonald of Earnscliffe, as she was appropriately styled, was born Agnes Bernard on August 24, 1836, and died on September 5, 1920. Agnes MacDonald was the second wife of Sir John A. Macdonald, the first Prime Minister of Canada. She was granted the title Baroness MacDonald of Earnscliffe following her husband's death in 1891. Had been where the British North America Act. They married on the 16th of February 1867. Both men from the story of personality with a courageous and happy disposition. She had the faculty of press in many magazine and press honors. Roberts was born in day in 42. Was married by Hague in Holland. The family have kept in touch who tend the graves. And in 1993, Phyllis Henriquez, his sister, and her daughter-in-law Barbara, wife of and Free France, only this journey is so with an even so. When the day 6, 1944, Operation Overlord was thrilling in its immensity, attacking German-held beaches in Normandy, France. The Allies hurled some 150,000 troops against Hitler's and was supported by 12,000 aircraft and 9 Gladstone, most learned in the world, of 2 or 3 languages. This man, Rudolph Burke, had gone to JC about graduate, opposed the young Wilson entry. Perhaps in Cowper's mind, one black student was enough. And although at the time Rudolph Burke was admitted to JC, Archdeacon William Sims was the headmaster. But Cowper's views were certainly not those of his famous ancestor of the same name, William Cowper, who wrote the poem, The Slave's Lament, that was used in the anti-slavery campaign. Gladstone Wilson had no alternative but to go elsewhere, and so he was sent to St. George's College. Interesting. Let's come back with more in just a moment.
Knowledge is power. Class is in session. Power 106.
You're listening to Power 1. That's right. The program is brought to you on Wednesdays by the Bank of Jamaica, building an inclusive economy, and on Thursdays by the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, providing opportunities, stability, and social protection. Under the law, at 6:45 and 8:55 a.m. and at 4 and at 9:55 p.m. Wednesdays and Thursdays on Power 106 FM.
¿Qué hora es en español? Son las 5:14. Retiro en francés. For Andrew, Jamaica. Good afternoon to all working Jamaicans tuned into both sides of the story here on Power 106 FM. It's a good time for us to ask ourselves, how productive have we been today? How productive have we been about the existence of God? Out of them to become priests. While the Judas became Jesuits, Wilson was refused entry in Paul II. The son saw her in Italy and wanted to re-enslave her. The Italian only. And once Bakita set foot in Italy, she was free. In the case of Gladstone Wilson, when he was refused entry into the Jesuits, it was Pope Pius XI who, after an appeal was made to him, suggested that Wilson go to Rome to study philosophy and theology. Wilson was ordained in Rome on the 24th of December, 1931. He returned to Jamaica in 1941 at a time when the political ferment in Jamaica was still raging. In 1937, Jamaica Welfare had been founded by Norman Manley. This entity, which would later be known as the Social Development Commission, would yield to urban drift. In 1938, the Bustamante Industrial Trade Union, BITU, and the People's National Party would come into being. In 1941, the Young Men's Sodality of Holy Trinity Cathedral started the credit union movement. In the following year, 1942, the Council of Voluntary Social Services would come into being. It was also in those years that the annual Jamaican pantomime would come into being with a distinct Jamaican flavor. In the middle of all of this, Gladstone Wilson returned to Jamaica, Monsignor Gladstone Wilson. He immediately got involved with the St. Anne's Church Progressive Roman Catholic Club in Western Kingston, which promoted the development of progressive thought in light of Catholic social teaching. Wilson also had sessions in the upper room at St. George's College, where he spoke against oppression in a scholarly way that corresponded with Catholic social teachings. But Bishop Thomas Emmett, that's why we have an Emmett Park at St. George's College, by the land barons and merchants and ordered Gladstone Wilson to stop the sessions. Monsignor Wilson took part in discussion groups at Drumblair, Norman Manley's home. He was even asked by the elder Manley to represent him when his son Michael got into trouble at JC. Prodded by Father Charles and Father Sidney Judah, it is said Monsignor Gladstone Wilson convinced Sir Alexander Bustamante to set an example by marrying Gladys Longbridge. Yes. They married in September 1962. So she became Lady Bustamante, naturally. It is indeed a pleasant surprise that among the new stained uh, glass windows that have come with the restoration for the 100th anniversary of Holy Trinity Cathedral are depictions of Saint Josephine Bakita, the martyrs of Uganda, and some of the modern saints. The original stained glass windows were destroyed by Hurricane Charlie in August 1951. Glass louvers replaced the stained glass windows until recently. Since it took 60 years to find the money to replace them, we hope and pray that hurricane shutters are in place at the first threat of a hurricane, so like the previous ones. 1956, Hiram Bingham, formerly Hiram Bingham III, died. Hiram Bingham III, or Hiram Bingham, formerly Hiram Bingham III, died on this day in 1956. Hiram Bingham was an academic, explorer, treasure hunter, and politician from the United States. He made public the existence of the Quechua citadel of Machu Picchu in 1911 with the guidance of local indigenous farmers. Later, Hiram Bingham served as a member of the United States Senate. Hiram Bingham was the internationally acclaimed American archaeologist, explorer, and writer. He was the first person to ascend the 21,763-foot Mount Koropuna and rediscover the so-called lost city of the Incas, Machu Picchu. Why are we telling you this? Because Hiram Bingham used to live at the Folly Mansion in Portland, here in Jamaica. First of all, let's tell you about the Folly Mansion. Construction of Folly Mansion and its elegant outbuildings began in 1903. The mansion was designed by Boston architects Chapman and Fraser as an adaptation of a Roman villa. The firm had recently won praise for a Mediterranean-style mansion built for Mark Twain, the author of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. It is said that no expense was spared in erecting the 60-room estate house that was to have 2 main floors and a utility basement. Folly Mansion was to be the dream home of the well-traveled Tiffany and Company jewelers heiress Annie Olivia Tiffany Mitchell. Let's do that again. Folly Mansion was to be the dream home of the well-traveled Tiffany and Company jewelers heiress Annie Olivia Tiffany Mitchell and her enterprising husband of 40 years, Alfred Mitchell of New London, Connecticut. They'd been guests at the Titchfield Hotel when they were attracted to the wind-swept property with its dramatic seascape and lighthouse, built in 1895. Construction of the Folly Mansion was started a year after Annie's father, Charles Louis Tiffany, founder of Tiffany and Company, died at age 90. Construction cost was estimated at £60,000. The expansive green lawns, which now comprise Folly Cricket Oval a sport field, and children's playground were once cut by mule-drawn scythe. Annie Olivia Tiffany and her husband Alfred Mitchell had two daughters, Alfreda and Charlotte. Alfreda was married to Hiram Bingham, the internationally acclaimed American archaeologist, explorer, and writer. He was the first person to ascend the 21,763-foot Mount Coropuna and rediscover the lost city of the Incas, Machu Picchu. To cut a long story short, Annie continued to spend her time nervously at Folly until 1916, when submarines were spotted in the Caribbean. She exhumed her husband's body and took it home to New London, Connecticut, otherwise known as Connecticut. Folly is now owned by the government. It was formed, well, it has formed the backdrop for a few movies. The Mighty Quinn with Denzel Washington, for example. The 77-acre Folly Estate, which is more than 105 years old, is now slated to become, still waiting for that actually, several years ago. Right, what time is it? Almost. So we're just about there, just about time for the privilege of serving you on yet another edition of your program, Both Sides of the Story. Monday, the 2022. The moving finger writes, and having writ moves